God and die. Chapter 27, verse 5 is the third mention of Job's integrity. He's talking to his friends who have wrongly accused him, and he says, God forbid that I should justify you. Till I die, I will not remove mine integrity from me. Job says, I may die, but I'm going to hold on to my integrity. You cannot take it away from me. Nobody is going to take it from me. One more time in chapter 31, we have a mention of Job's integrity when he said in verse 6, let me be weighed in an even balance that God may know mine integrity. What is integrity? I found three definitions in the dictionary. First of all, it is the condition or quality of being complete, undivided or unbroken wholeness. And secondly, integrity is an unimpaired condition. And third, integrity is moral soundness or uprightness. Several times, the Hebrew word for integrity is translated uprightness. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 9 says, he that walketh uprightly walketh surely. It's not talking about a man walking around with his nose up in the air like he's better than everybody else, but it's talking about the fact that there's something about even the way a man of integrity carries himself. We've tried to teach our young people to sit up straight and not to slouch. Why? Because it's just a part of uprightness. Uprightness and integrity all from the same word in the Hebrew. In Proverbs 10:29 it says, the way of the Lord is strength to the upright. And Proverbs 28:6 says, better is the poor that walketh in his uprightness than he that is perverse in his ways, though he be rich. May I ask you a question? If you were offered $1 million to do a little something wrong, would you do it? If you were offered $1 million to walk into a store and steal a 50-cent candy bar, would you do it? Contractors and engineers refer to the integrity of steel. What they're saying is that steel may look great on the outside, and you may put two pieces of steel side by side, and both of them look identical, but one of them, when it's put under stress, may not support. The reason the one piece of steel supports is because it has integrity. Now, what is the difference between integrity and character? The English word character doesn't actually appear in the Bible, but the Greek word from which we get our English word does appear. Hebrews 1:3 refers to the express image of Jesus Christ, and the Greek word there is character. We get our English word straight from the Greek word. What is the difference between integrity and character? Character is doing right over and over until the doing of right becomes a part of the life. You teach a child. You get up in the morning, you make your bed, you take your shower, you get yourself dressed, you read your Bible and pray. You do your chores, and then you teach them that when they speak to an adult, they say yes, sir, and no, sir, and yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, in order to show respect. When they learn all of that and do all of that without thinking about it, they are displaying character. Character, somebody said, is doing right by habit. It is doing right automatically. It is moral excellence. You can train character into a child. Good character is the natural response to act or react according to high standards of behavior in every situation. Now, integrity is character, but it is more than character, and integrity is more important than character. We had a situation in our church a number of years ago where a young man from our church had to appear in court and wound up on a witness stand. The young man was in trouble, but the judge could hardly believe the young man was in trouble. Some folks from our church came back and told me, we don't know what's going to happen with this. You see, the young man had the character quality of respectfulness, but he did not have integrity. He had been trained well enough that he automatically on the witness stand said yes, sir, no, sir, and so on. And so he got on the witness stand with a neat haircut, wearing a suit and tie. He looked and sounded respectful. He knew how to walk and talk. He knew how to do everything on the outside that would give the impression to others that he had character, but he lacked integrity, and integrity is more important than character. When I look at these young people here and in the choir, I see young people that are young people basically of character, more character in general than I would see out yonder in the world, and yet that is not enough. There needs to be a heart of integrity. Integrity is character that is true from the heart. It is character that is resolute. It is character that cannot be changed. It is character that is unpolluted. Integrity is more likely to produce character than character is likely to produce integrity. In fact, integrity is the parent of character or the producer of character. If you find a person who doesn't have much character, but they have integrity, they will get character. I have seen young people come to our church whose parents were not Christians and did not care about being Christians. In some cases, I've even seen parents who did not even want to do right. But the young person would get saved and then let the Holy Spirit produce integrity in his life. And before long, he's saying, I want to do right. It doesn't matter what anybody else says or does. I'm going to do right. And a person like that will eventually develop character. Character deficiencies are a result of a lack of integrity. Don't miss that thought. Notice it again. Character deficiencies are really a result of a lack of integrity. If a man has integrity and he sees a character deficiency or a character flaw in his life, then he'll say, that must not stay in my life. I must deal with that. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying anybody's perfect, because they're not. And that's not what we're talking about. We're simply talking about steel that supports, something that is sound, the steel of resolve on the inside of a man's soul to do that which is right regardless. Integrity is more than good habits that have been formed. I've seen people form good habits and then go bad. Why did they go bad? Because even though they had good habits, they didn't have the integrity to undergird and support the good habits. Integrity is a determination of the heart. In fact, the first time the word occurs in the Bible, it is a man referring to integrity in his heart. Abraham and Sarah were traveling in the area of Gerar. Because Abraham was afraid, he said that his wife Sarah was his sister. Then Abimelech, the king of Gerar, sent for and took Sarah. Genesis 23 says, But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, Behold, thou art but a dead man. For the woman which thou hast taken, for she is a man's wife. But Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, Lord, wilt thou slay also a righteous nation? Said he not unto me, she is my sister, and she even herself said, he is my brother. Now here's the first occurrence of the word in the Bible. In the integrity of my heart and innocency of my hands have I done this. And God said unto him in a dream, Yea, I know that thou didst this in the integrity of thy heart, for I also withheld thee from sinning against me. Therefore suffered I thee not to touch her. Now therefore restore the man his wife. What a strange story. Abraham is the man of faith. He was the man who was called of God to walk with God. He is the righteous man. Abimelech, probably a heathen Philistine king, but Abimelech had more integrity in this situation than Abraham did. Abraham, to protect his own skin, told that his wife was his sister, which was a half-truth. He was trying to protect himself, and in the meantime, this heathen king said, I have integrity. I haven't touched the woman. Please, God, spare my life. Character is good. Integrity is even better. Integrity is the unwavering determination in the heart to do right no matter what. When I'm afraid, I must do right. When I'm not afraid, I must do right. When my emotions lead me the wrong way, I must have integrity. I must do right. When my emotions are doing fine, I must do right. When I'm among the heathen, that's where Abraham was. That's why he thought he had to lie and deceive. When I'm among the heathen, I must do right. When I'm not among the heathen, I must do right. When I'm among committed Christians, I must do right. When I'm among worldly Christians, I must do right. When my friends stand with me, I must do right. And when my friends attack me like Job's friends attacked him, I must still do right. That's what Job was saying when he said, I will not lose mine integrity. I will not remove mine integrity from me. When your friends turn on you, despise you, make fun of you, and put you down, you must still maintain integrity. If your wife and children stand with you, you must do right. If your wife and children don't stand with you, you must still do right. When it's easy, you must do right. When it's hard, you must do right. When there's no cost, you must do right. When it is costly, you must do right, no matter what it costs. When people like it, you must do right. And when people don't like it, you must do right. That is integrity. If there's anything needed in young men in our day, it is integrity. Young men need to simply have the resolve in their hearts and in their souls to say, I will do right. I don't feel like it. My head gets all messed up. I may not be getting any support. I'm not getting encouragement, but I've got to have integrity, and I won't let it go. I will do right. Integrity is that thing in a man or a woman that says, I must and will do that which is right, period, no question marks. A man of integrity tells the truth, period. He tells the truth when he's under oath. He tells the truth when he's not under oath. That's what Jesus was talking about when he said, let your communication be yea, yea, and nay, nay. Several times I've talked to men who have gotten into trouble with the law, and I've said to them, whatever you do, don't play games with the court. If you haven't had integrity before, it's sure time to get some now. Walk into the courtroom and tell the judge what you did. Be honest, be frank, be forthright. There was a man in our church a number of years ago who'd gotten into trouble with the law. He came and asked me what he should do, and it was very clear to me what he should have done. He should have walked into the courtroom, sat down on the witness stand, and just told what he did. His life would have been better in the long run had he done so. He got a lawyer. I'm not against a man having a lawyer, somebody to stand by the side and counsel and lead them. But lawyers, listen to me, because we have lost this truth totally in America. Lawyers should not lead people to get off who are truly guilty, and it is a disgrace to the law profession when that happens. This man said, Pastor, my lawyer told me I should lie on the witness stand. He said there's no way the state can prove their case. This was a Christian man who was a member of my church. I said, what are you going to do? He said, well, I got to do what my lawyer tells me to do. He put his lawyer above God. And if he had any integrity, he lost it. He sacrificed his truthfulness on the altar of, I will do whatever I have to do to get me off the hook. We taught our girls, and now all of our girls are married, and we have 11 grandchildren, and they and their husbands are teaching their children the same thing. You get into more trouble for telling a lie than anything else. Parents, if you're not doing that, teach that to your children. No matter what you do, no matter what it costs you, tell the truth. Several years ago, a college sports team won a championship game. And after they did, the coach discovered they had ineligible players playing on the team. Without anybody forcing him to do so, the coach stepped forward and relinquished the championship trophy. Without waiting to be found out, he brought the trophy and gave it back. What is that? It is integrity. The little phrase really is true. It's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. Why? Because there's always somebody that can play a little better than I can play, but anyone can excel at integrity if they will. When you stand before God, it's not going to matter how many points you scored in a game, but it's going to matter a whole lot whether you had integrity and did right in the game. There's a town in Pennsylvania named Claysburg that was named after the famous legislator Henry Clay, who has been called the greatest senator that the United States ever produced. Henry Clay's passion was to become president of the United States. More than once he ran for the presidency. One of those times, before 1850 that he was running for president, he was also working on some legislation that at that time was unpopular legislation. His advisors sat down and looked at him and said, "Senator, you must not press this legislation. It is unpopular. It could cost you the election to the presidency of the United States of America." Henry Clay looked at his advisors and said, "Is the principle right?" And they said, "What do you mean?" He said, "What I'm pushing, is it right or is it wrong?" Oh, we need some statesmen, politicians who will learn to ask and properly answer that question again, don't we? And they said, "Oh, it's right, Senator, but it's unpopular." And he replied, "Then press this legislation to the nth degree. I would rather be right than be president." So integrity is the determination to do right no matter what. Secondly, in fact, read this with me out loud. Would you please, everyone? Integrity must be held in the heart. Integrity is not just what people see. Integrity is what you really are when the lights are turned out. Twice in Genesis 20, the Bible referred to the integrity of Abimelech's heart. And in Job, God said about Job, "He holdeth fast his integrity." And remember Job 27:5, "I will not remove mine integrity from me." You know, one of the most important truths in the whole Bible is where Jesus said, "Without me ye can do nothing." And I will tell you right up front, if you really have integrity, it's not just because you've got it. If you've really got it, it's because the Lord gave it to you. But I also tell you that though God gives it to you, it's as though He says, "I give you the responsibility to hold on to your integrity. I give it to you, you hold on to it." How can a person hold on to integrity? Only in the heart. If it is not in the heart, it is up for grabs. If it is not in your heart, then the mind will begin to rationalize and figure out a way to get around it. If your integrity is only in your hands, somebody will be able to buy it from you. If your integrity is only in your mind, somebody will be able to talk you out of it. But if your integrity is in your heart, then you, with God's help, can keep it no matter what. Let me ask you a key question here. What would you do if nobody ever found out? If you knew nobody would ever find out, what would you do? If you knew you would never be caught, what would you do? Which is stronger in your heart right now, greed or integrity? Would you steal if no one would ever find out about it? Which is stronger in your heart, lust or integrity? What would you look at if you knew no one would ever find out? Where would you go? Who would you touch? What would you do if you knew no one would ever find out? Integrity says, "I can't do this because I can't live with myself if I do it." That is integrity in the heart. Remember the story of Joseph? Sold into slavery by his brothers, wound up in Potiphar's house in Egypt, where Potiphar's wife tried to seduce him. What did he say? "How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" Notice that Joseph wasn't just worried about Potiphar finding out. People who are unfaithful to their mates are usually only worried about their mate or the other person's mate finding out. They're not as likely to maintain integrity as they are if they recognize that God is always watching them. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Joseph wasn't just worried about Potiphar finding out. He was worried about having to live with himself, knowing that God would know that which he had done. Martin Luther said, "If I knew the world would go to pieces tomorrow, I would still plant my little apple tree and pay my debts." May I ask you, if no bill collector was coming after you, would you still pay your bills? If the boss is nowhere around, do you still put in 8 hours work for 8 hours pay? My dad said to me years ago, "Son, if a man pays you to work, you work for that man. It doesn't matter if that man is standing there or not." My dad used to say, "Son, there are times when the boss wasn't around, but I still worked because God is always around and God is always watching me." Do you work harder when the boss is watching than you do when he's not? George Washington said, I cannot tell a lie. What is that? It is integrity. Integrity pays a bill when it's supposed to be paid, or it calls up the person and tells them when it will be paid. It cannot just act like the bill does not exist. When you owe a person money and you don't pay them and you dodge talking to them, you are sacrificing your testimony on the altar of your lack of integrity. I love stories of Abraham Lincoln. And this is from the book, The Story Life of Abraham Lincoln. It took place at New Salem, Illinois, down near where I live, near Springfield, Illinois. It said on one occasion, while working as a clerk in a store, Lincoln sold a woman a little bale of goods amounting in value by the reckoning to $2.20. He received the money and the woman went away. On adding the items of the bill again to make sure of correctness, he found he had taken 6 1/4 cents too much. It was night, and closing and locking the store, he started out on foot a distance of 2 or 3 miles for the house of his defrauded customer, and delivering over to her the sum whose possession had so much troubled him, he went home satisfied and happy. What is that? It is integrity. That's why they called him Honest Abe. Did you know if you can't trust a man with 2 cents in the store, you can't trust him with $2 billion in the White House? You may recognize the name Adam Clark. Adam Clark was a great man of God who wrote a set of commentaries on the Bible. When he was a young man, he worked in a store, and the owner of the store told him that when he sold the material to the people, he wanted him to stretch the material so that he'd get more yards off the road. When Adam Clark refused to stretch the material and cheat the people, he lost his job. You know what? That was integrity. I'd rather have a word of commitment and a handshake from a man of integrity than to have a man without integrity who signs a detailed contract. My dad used to say, son, let your word be your bond. He was saying, son, if you give your word, that ought to be good enough. A man shouldn't need anything else. Your word should be all that you need, and that should stand no matter what else happens. Thirdly, integrity is most important in the home. Psalm 101 verse 2, I will behave myself wisely in a perfect way. I will walk within my house with a perfect heart. And the word perfect there is the same Hebrew word translated other places as integrity. At the end of the book of Job, God gave Job double what he had, plus 10 more children. Imagine the testimony those children heard. Imagine him telling how he went through all that he went through and was still able to hold on to his integrity. There's a man in our church by the Glenn Comstock who testified how he was at Springfield, Illinois, walked out of a Walmart, and there were 6 $100 bills laying on the ground. He walked back inside the store, left a note at the service desk to let anyone who came and asked for it know that he had found their money. The people who lost the money did call, and they drove up to Lincoln to his house. At first, they were just very grateful. Then as they started to leave, they handed him a $100 bill. He tried to get them to keep it, but they insisted he take it. When they started to leave the second time, they were so grateful for his honesty, they handed him another $100. And Glenn said, I don't need the $100. I'm just glad you got your money back. And they said, no, take it. And they forced him to take a $200 reward. Now, can I tell you something? The greatest thing to happen was not the $200 reward. The greatest thing to happen was that Glenn Comstock's children learned that a man can walk in his house with a perfect heart. He could have kept the $600, sure, but think what his children learned. Integrity is most important in the home. Proverbs chapter 20 verse 7 says, the just man walketh in his integrity. His children are blessed after him. Here are my 4 points. Read them with me out loud, would you please? Integrity is the determination to do right no matter what. Integrity must be held in the heart. Integrity is most important in the home. And fourth, integrity will guide you. Proverbs 11:3 says, the integrity of the upright shall guide them, but the perverseness of transgressors shall destroy them. In another message, I give the key Bible principles on how a young man finds a mate for life. But one of the most important things is just that a young man or a young lady has integrity. If you have integrity, then you're more likely to find somebody else who has integrity, just like Ruth and Boaz found each other in a grain field. And last, integrity will guard you. Psalm 25:21, let integrity and uprightness preserve me, for I wait on thee. It was the integrity of his heart that saved Abimelech's life. And it matters not how much talent or money or intelligence or personality or charisma or ability a person has. If he does not have integrity, his life may become worthless. Richie Bartlett, young man in Texas, absolutely brilliant. Scored higher on the Air Force entrance exam than anyone had ever scored, teaching high schoolers trigonometry when he was in the 7th grade, but he lacked integrity. Kicked out of the Air Force with a dishonorable discharge, and after he returned home, he went to a wild party, and as he left early, somebody asked him, where are you going? And Richie was heard to say, we're going to go kill somebody. They left Athens, Texas, crossed the Oklahoma line, and saw a man having car trouble. The three of them got out. Two friends grabbed each arm, and Richie Bartlett, on a lark, put a gun to a total stranger's head, pulled the trigger, and murdered the man. He is now serving a life sentence in the Huntsville Penitentiary in Texas, and his youth pastor said to me, he had more potential than any person I ever met. And when Jay asked, is there any remorse in Richie? He was told no. He sits in prison griping because his grandmother doesn't do more for him. Some of the most talented people with incredible potential are in prisons all over America, but they lacked integrity. What did Job say? I will hold fast to my integrity till I die. And yet remember that Jesus said, without me ye can do nothing. There could be somebody listening to all of this who says, it's impossible to live that way. And the truth is, without Jesus, nobody can do anything they ought to do. And a lot of people think that if they live a good enough life, have good enough character, keep enough of the commandments, pay their bills, treat their neighbor right, they'll go to heaven. But the truth is, we are all sinners who have to trust Jesus as our Savior, or we will wind up in hell. And the ultimate question for everyone here tonight is this question: have you trusted Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior? Thank you for the privilege to come tonight. God bless you.